Whether you just picked up a brand new camera or you've been doing photography for a while now and want to get into portrait photography, well, this video is for you. I'm going to run through the gear I use, my camera settings, and a few other tips for you to get started doing portrait photography. So I personally shoot Sony, and I use the Sony a7 IV as my main photography camera. And this camera is great. It has a flip out screen that tilts and rotates, and it also has a dual memory card slot, and this top slot can also fit a CF Express A card. Now, if you're just starting out, you may not need a camera that has the dual memory card slot, but having the dual card slot is a necessity for paid photography work. Because if your memory card in the first slot fails, it backs up to slot 2, and you automatically have a backup file. Which leads me to a memory card. So I have two different memory cards here. This is a SanDisk 256 gigabyte card, and then in slot B I have a Sony TUF 128 gigabyte card. Your camera will already come with a battery, because you'll definitely need that. And then the last thing that you'll need is going to be your lens. Personally, for portrait photography, I love to shoot on a prime 85mm low aperture lens. 85mm is a really good focal length, especially for portrait photography. It has great compression, and you can really blur out the background if you get a low aperture lens. So mine is a f1.8 lens. I'd really like to get the G Master lens someday, but this one works just fine, and it produces amazing images. So that's really all you need to get started. But there are a few accessories out there that do make portrait photography a little bit easier. Number one being the Peak Design Pro Pad, which is this right here. And what you do is you slide it in your belt, then you put it down. Then you have to pair it with a capture clip of some sort. This is the Peak Design one. Tighten it down. And when you buy the capture clip, you can get it with the Peak Design plate, because now when this is on your hip, you can just slide the camera right in and it stays put. And this is really useful in situations where you have to help pose your client. Another thing that's really useful is something like this. This is what's known as a gray card. It's really inexpensive, and generally if I'm shooting portraits indoors, my very first shot I'll have my client just hold the gray card up to their face. This way I can always make sure I get the white balance correct in post. The best scenario would be to nail all of the correct settings in camera while you're shooting. So if I'm shooting outdoors, I shoot in daylight or 5600 Kelvin. But indoors, lighting can be tricky, so having something like this is really useful. And if you don't know how to use this, don't worry, because I'll show you how to do it in just a little bit. And really the last thing that you'll need is some sort of photo editing software. Almost every photographer that I know, including myself, we use Adobe Lightroom. It's a great program, and it's really powerful. It is a subscription-based program. I have the photography bundle, which includes Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, and it's about $10 a month, so it's quite affordable. Okay, so next let's go to my camera settings. If you're shooting outdoors, I suggest you have the lowest ISO possible, which is going to be 100. Having a low ISO is really going to help you reduce the noise in your photos as long as you have proper lighting. For indoor shoots, I'm generally at about 400 ISO, but that is using flash photography. I'll have a video coming out soon on flash, so stay tuned for that. So you'll see down here, my ISO was at 400. But I'm at -2 for exposure. There's a couple things that you can do here. Either increase your ISO or decrease your shutter speed. Just keep in mind, if you decrease your shutter speed too much, then you will have motion blur in your photos, so you really want to be careful with that. If you only have one model that you're photographing, I suggest you keep your f-stop or the aperture the lowest it can go for the lens. In my case, it's going to be f1.8. And this is just going to produce some amazing portraits. Next, for white balance, there's a couple things you can do here. If you're shooting outside, go ahead and change it to daylight. If you're shooting in the shade, then you can change it to shade. Or you can keep it at auto white balance and then adjust it in post. Make sure you're shooting in RAW format and not JPEG. Because if you're shooting in JPEG, there's not much that you can get back in post compared to RAW. If you're shooting indoors and you know the specific Kelvin then you can go ahead and just adjust it right in camera. Or like I said before, use your handy gray card. Before you actually go out for your photo shoot, make sure that you are well prepared. There's this great app called Unscripted. There's a paid version and a free version. As you can see here, I have the free version and it works just fine. At the bottom here, there's a spot for posing. I like to go through here and you can see up top, there's all different categories. So if you're doing portraits, you can go through and check out some of the popular poses. And if you click on it, under direction, it'll give you a little blurb about what you can do to get this shot. So in this case, you would tell your model, hold your camera up like you're about to take a photo. And then you take the photo and this is what you get. Another thing that I really like doing is just using Google. I always Google different pose ideas. And all I do is take a screenshot of the different poses that I like. And when I'm out on my photo shoot, I whip my phone out, see which ones I like, and then I get them. And a word of advice, make your model or your client feel comfortable. A relaxed atmosphere is going to make your model feel more comfortable, they'll relax, and the poses will just look more natural and better.
To fix your white balance, just grab this eyedropper tool and click on the gray card, and voila, you're all set.
So in conclusion, keep practicing. Love what you do. The combination of the two is going to make you better and better, and it'll really show through in your work. And it seems like recently, everyone needs headshots. So I've been really busy doing headshots, but that does require flash. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for a video on flash photography. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all soon.